Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm very excited to make a video on two stocks that I used to absolutely love to trade. Now today I'm going to be talking about PayPal and Square stocks. I want to show you the technical analysis for both of these companies, but also I want to show you why these positions are at a very critical moment and what you should consider if you are an investor right now on either of these two names. Now we did get a lot of great growth today, or a good move to the upside, and you can see that this was also accompanied by some higher volume. So I do want to talk about what exactly happened today with PayPal and Square that was so bullish and made these stocks rise like crazy. But at the same time, I do want to show you the very real danger with the pattern that PayPal and Square are setting up right now, and what exactly you need to know as an investor if you are considering holding your position, or if you even are considering entering into a new position. Some things to look at and some things to consider here. Now, with PayPal and Square, we saw a lot of growth for these companies coming out of April and all the way into August of 2020. They were absolutely chugging along. There was really nothing that was going to stop their growth. And even coming into December, you can see that they rocketed up to some highs. At PayPal, it was $320. On Square, it was also a very, very high valuation. And one of the main things that we need to take away from this run was the main reason why the company ran, and that was the Bitcoin hype. Now, both of these companies, PayPal and Square, have their own payments platform, and as you know, they are integrating Bitcoin into their payments platform, which is not only going to help the price of Bitcoin, it's also going to be pushing up these stocks and helping people keep their eye on a company like PayPal and on a company like Square, which potentially needs a little push to continue growing that valuation, as they now are at a very high price to earnings ratio. Now, PayPal is at a very good valuation. I don't think they are over exaggerated, but Square is almost at a 600x price to earnings ratio. So that's something to really take an eye on here with both of these companies, is how much room they really have to grow and what are they doing in the very short term and long term to continue growing their asset base, and what they can really offer here as a company, because this is going to be one of the main things pushing their market cap up and continuing to allow them to grow as a stock. So that's going to be one of the things that I'm focusing on here in the video. What exactly have these companies said about Bitcoin over the last few weeks, and what has happened that is continuing to push their stock price up? But at the same time, I am going to be talking about the very real risk with the pattern that PayPal and Square have been forming here over the last few hours, and exactly what you need to know as an investor if you are thinking about stepping in on this stock either at the 243, 230, or if you are thinking about Square, which I will also be talking about the key levels of support and resistance with that stock and what exactly you should be watching over the next few days. Now, getting straight into the technical analysis side of things here with PayPal stock, and then following, I'm going to talk about Square. But coming back to PayPal here, we are going to want to know exactly what the key levels of support and resistance are with this stock if we are considering a new position. But not only that, if we are holding a long-term position, it's going to be very important to know when it is safe to buy the dip and when we are really truly getting a discount on a name like PayPal, Square, etc. So that's exactly what I want to show you right now. You can see that PayPal has risen to highs of around 310, but right now they have dipped all the way to 250, especially after the run today. PayPal has seen some strength over the last few days, and they have been one of these companies that if you bought the dip on over these last few days and hours, then you have a very successful chance of making a profit. And that's one of the main reasons why I want to touch on this company. I think that they are very far from selling off, but at the same time, we have to recognize that the chart is making a very clear head and shoulders pattern. So exactly, as a technical analysis trader, I want you guys to take note of what a head and shoulders pattern looks like and the effect that it could potentially have on a stock, as PayPal is looking like it might be in the grip of one of these type of patterns. Now, looking at this diagram, I want you guys to understand what a head and shoulders pattern consists of and how we can get an idea of when is one setting up on the chart. Now, as you can see here, I have made 3 triangle outlines on the chart, and based on the price data from the last few hours and going all the way back to even December of 2020, this pattern has been setting up very clearly with PayPal stock. And essentially what you want to look for with a head and shoulders pattern is going to be that shoulder, the head, and then a second shoulder, which is usually a characteristic of a sell-off incoming. And that's one of the main reasons why I want you guys to take an eye out on PayPal, because not only do they have a sell-off kind of signaled here by the chart, but also this is going to be a position where a lot of people are considering them to be in a bullish mode. So if they do sell off, then this is ultimately an absolutely smashing time to make a decision to buy. And if they do come down to 205, which is the next support that I see breaking after 230, then that will be an absolutely smashing time to buy, which I recommend anybody who really considers PayPal into the future or even in the short term, this is going to be an extremely great time to buy. Now that we consider the worst case scenario here on PayPal stock over the next few days, I want to talk about what it's going to take to get a bullish reaction coming out of this pattern and what essentially we can look at as traders in order to know that we are really out of the woods here with this problem that could be happening on PayPal and Square, and essentially what we should watch to know that we are back in a growing and bullish direction. And that's going to be one of the things that I most talk about here on the channel, the 200 exponential moving average. That's going to be the bluish green line here that I set on the chart. You can also see it up here in the top left. And essentially what this shows us is whether a stock is either growing or slowing down in the long term. And you can see that every time PayPal is above the 200 EMA, that is going to represent a great time to buy where the stock is in a really strong growth sector or cycle. But right now that PayPal is below the 200 EMA, we are seeing some very hard times here on this stock. And you can see that consistently the stock comes up to test this bluish green line and consistently gets beaten back down, which is a sign that the stock is not ready to head back in the upwards direction. So ultimately what I'm watching with PayPal here is going to be whether or not this continued move from today and this excellent volume that we got today can continue into tomorrow, and whether or not we will break above this 250, which is the support or actually resistance that we set from even a couple of months ago. So again, guys, these levels are not new. If you've been following the channel, we've been watching these levels very closely for a while, and that's why it's going to be very important to know exactly what you're looking at with these charts so you can have conviction with plays like PayPal or Square. If you have been following the channel, then you would have known that 230 was a great point of support for PayPal, and if you were looking to scoop this up for the long term or even for the short term, you could have caught a couple of great bounces on a name like PayPal. Now I'm going to move over to Square stock here, but again guys, if you did learn something new or you are enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps out the channel, and also check out the links in the description. Now, focusing here on Square stock, this is one of the stocks that I told you guys was my absolute favorite growth company on the whole stock market. Looking at these two companies now between PayPal and Square, personally, I have to prefer PayPal because they are at a better valuation. But if we do take a look at not only price to earnings ratio, but price to sales, we can see that Square and PayPal really aren't that overvalued, and they're only trading at a small multiple of what they are selling each year. So obviously that's going to be great, and that's going to be something that can continue pushing these stocks up into the future. But again, we need to consider the very real scenario that there might be a cool off coming with the market. So not only am I going to show you what it's going to take for Square to be in an upwards direction, but I also want to talk about where the bottom is for Square and what we can expect if we do see a break below the minimum. Now with PayPal, they are very much closer to that minimum than Square, and I think that Square is a stronger stock with more volume and more people watching it. But at the same time, PayPal is a reputable company with tons of years of experience behind it. So both of these companies are growth names. They're both very strong companies, and that's why I want to recommend them to you both at the same time. Even though I prefer one or another, I really think that it makes no difference in the long run because both of these companies have a great potential to not only continue growing their own user base, but also continue growing their asset base with Bitcoin and with other sort of monetary policies that are going to be helping them in the long run. So looking at technical analysis here with Square stock, I want to talk about exactly where the tops and bottoms are, the support and resistance that we should be watching, similarly to how we were doing it on PayPal chart. Now here on Square, I don't have it as set up, and one of the main reasons for that is that I want you guys to try to just take a quick look at the chart and see if you can find out where the recent support is on Square stock just by looking at the chart here. Now, my first reaction when I am going to be setting up some support or resistance levels is to look at a point where the stock has either gone to multiple times and retraced back, or maybe a point where the stock flip-flops at and they can't break that level. Now, obviously, if you look at the chart right here, 209 all the way to around 200 is going to be a very strong level of support. where the stock seems to always bounce from. And as you can see, that's exactly what happened just this week on the 30th of March, when we did see a great reaction here from Square stock. And right now they are up around 7% on the day, or $15, and looking like they might continue into tomorrow. So I want to show you exactly where the level of resistance is here on Square, and where I think they might potentially see a stopping point, or maybe some cool down where you might want to reconsider your position, or maybe even buy on a dip. Now, as always, guys, like I said, Square, their resistance or support point, is going to be at 205, and that's the level that we want to watch to know whether we are either getting a great price on Square, or if we are going to get another sell-off. So as always, keep your eye on this price, but it really looks like to me that Square is firmly above this price. And now that they came above their 200 EMA today, if they can hold tomorrow above this 200 EMA, then this will ultimately be a great sign of future growth. And I'm going to be showing you right now the resistance level you should be watching if you are considering trading a breakout on this stock, or are hoping for some future growth with Square. Now, looking at Square, you can see that there is a very clear resistance point here, setting up at $245 a share. This is where Square has historically ran to, and then had a lot of trouble breaking through this point. So if I was an investor on Square, which I am for the longer term, not short term here with Square or PayPal, I am going to be looking to buy either around 205 or anywhere under 244, as this would ultimately represent a great moment to buy the stock undervalued, and a moment to buy it before a breakout. But ultimately around the 227 range, where this 200 EMA is being tested, is going to be that breakout price that we need to be watching to know whether Square will be having strength all the way up to 240, or whether they might retest back down to 205, similar to what PayPal seems to be doing right now, and what a lot of other stocks in the market seem like they might be wanting to do right now. So right now, even though we did see a great bounce today on Square, PayPal, etc., the SPY even, on a lot of other names, there is a still bunch of confusion in the market. And even though the stimulus plan or Biden's infrastructure plan did come out today, a lot of people are still conflicted on whether it is positive or negative, and we still need to see whether it can even pass Congress, pass the Senate, and how quickly it can do so. So as always, guys, there is going to be a lot of things still in the way of any future economic aid and even economic growth, and that's going to be affecting these companies like Square, PayPal, and other markets in the broader market for a very, very long time. And so be careful of that. If you are investing on these companies, don't be cautiously optimistic of these names. Don't be so ready to jump back in and put your whole portfolio in when you know that there could be a retracement coming over the next few days. So as always, guys, please be cautiously optimistic. Make sure you're being very careful with your investments. It's very important that you watch your assets and you watch your capital, because there really is nothing better than having money to buy on a dip. So as always, guys, I hope you learned something today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Check the links in the description. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope all your plays are in the green.